Initially, a sense of panic overwhelmed me as I realized the inevitability of my impending death. The gravity of the situation left me feeling helpless and trapped. However, as I came to terms with the reality of my fate, a strange calmness washed over me, causing time to seemingly stand still. During my experience, I found myself in a state of darkness, but it was a comforting darkness filled with love. It was a moment of complete peace and freedom from any worries or fears. In that moment, I had a profound realization that everything is interconnected and part of a greater whole. Then I went through a life review, where I reflected on my past experiences and choices. At the end of this review, I heard a voice presenting me with a choice. I could either stay in that state of peace or return to the physical world. Initially, I was tempted to stay, as the place I was in felt incredibly pleasant. However, I also understood the significance of this current time on Earth and the importance of being here. Despite knowing that returning would mean starting anew and facing challenges, I made the decision to come back to my body. In that moment, I found myself submerged in water, feeling immense pain, and wondering how I would escape this situation. Then, the voice returned and advised me to stop resisting the water. It explained that my muscles had very little oxygen left and instructed me to relax and go with the water. It promised that in a minute I would find a way out. Trusting the voice, I followed its guidance. I can't say for sure how much time passed, but suddenly my foot made contact with something solid. Without hesitation, the voice exclaimed, "Now!" I exerted all my strength and pushed against the solid object, breaking through to the surface. As I gasped for air, the intensity of my breath made me feel nauseous. People on the banks were in a frenzy, shouting, "There she is!" A kind man in a kayak swiftly paddled towards me and brought me safely to shore. For years, I remained silent about my experience because I struggled to find the right words to describe it. I was filled with fear that others would view me as insane. However, this experience taught me the profound importance of love. The most meaningful way to express love is through acts of service and helping others. Death does not frighten me, and there have been moments when I have faced deep spiritual struggles. The anguish of feeling disconnected from our Creator is a painful and challenging illusion.
Story 2.
The ambulance arrived too late and the pain became unbearable. I was aware that my life was coming to an end. Darkness consumed my thoughts, and I anticipated the moment when everything would simply cease. I felt a shift in my consciousness, as it seemed to detach from my physical body and focus solely inside my head. Surprisingly, I didn't feel any pain, despite still being aware of my body. I couldn't help but think about how remarkable nature is, as it seemed to have orchestrated a painless ending for me. What was even more intriguing was that my thinking mind remained clear and fully conscious throughout the entire process, without any breaks or gaps in my awareness. As I experienced a sudden burst of white sparks, followed by red sparks, my mind started to flicker in a pattern of white and black, resembling an old television set. In that moment, I feared that I would lose consciousness and meet my demise. However, unexpectedly it felt as if I was propelled out of the top of my head, scrambling upwards. I found myself in a dark and serene emptiness. I contemplated the possibility of being deceased and enduring an eternity in this state. Surprisingly, I found solace in the emptiness, although it lacked any sense of fulfillment. As I glanced back at my lifeless body, I was overcome with disgust. The sight of it repulsed me, but at the same time I felt a sense of relief and liberation. It became clear to me how much of a burden my physical form had been throughout my existence. As I gazed around, my eyes caught sight of a faint ethereal glow in the distance, beckoning me towards it. Intrigued, I ventured closer and the light gradually grew brighter. Although a sense of security enveloped me, a sense of unease also crept in. Questions about the existence of a higher power and the true path to enlightenment began to trouble my mind. Should I pray to a divine being? And if so, which one? The uncertainty of finding the right name for God weighed heavily on me as I pondered the various religious traditions. Looking back now, it all seems rather amusing. I didn't encounter anything that was clearly labeled or identified. However, I had a strong sense of déjà vu, as if I had gone through all of this before. It felt strangely familiar. I distinctly remember thinking, what? Dead again and still haven't accomplished anything with my life? I also had a deep understanding that I was responsible for my own demise. In my earthly existence, I hadn't intentionally taken my own life, as I had passed away from a severe asthma attack. But in that moment, I realized that even seemingly random occurrences, like my asthma and poor health from birth, were actually a result of my own actions. I saw that my life had reached a point of stagnation in some aspects. I had lost sight of its purpose. During my first term at Oxford, despite having no apparent reason to feel this way, I found myself feeling unhappy. And so, in this unexpected manner, the end had come. And I was the one who had brought it upon myself. As the light grew larger, it transformed into a being that radiated immense love, joy, intelligence, and power. It seemed to recognize me, and there was a sense of familiarity. Laughter filled the air, and I was enveloped by this being, experiencing its incredible existence and consciousness, as if it were my own. It was a profound and joyful encounter, and I couldn't help but wonder if this experience was a special gift. After that, a series of events unfolded. I felt as though I was returning to my true self, a smaller version of who I once was. My goal was to reach a state where the boundaries between subjective and objective reality blurred, where the judgmental relationship between myself and others ceased to exist. It's hard for me to put into words, but I couldn't help but wonder if I had lived a previous life as a Buddhist. Buddhists are known for their strict adherence to not being deceived by visions after death. Despite never having practiced meditation, I found myself strangely knowledgeable about the art of focusing the mind. During my experience, I witnessed the profound impact of a calm and focused mind. It was revealed to me that a still mind produces a smooth and tranquil line, while a scattered and unfocused mind creates a jagged and chaotic line, resembling a mountain range. This insight allowed me to understand the process of how mountains are formed. Additionally, I had the privilege of observing the Earth from a vast distance. Surrounding the Earth was a magnificent being emanating a radiant pink light. This being exuded pure love, and I couldn't help but wonder if it was Jesus. The mention of Jesus seemed to resonate deeply with this being, as indicated by a pulsating point of pink light. It became clear to me that Jesus held a special place in the heart of this extraordinary being. In that moment, a realization washed over me. I had truly passed away. The weight of this knowledge hit me like a ton of bricks, and my mind immediately raced to the pain and anguish my mother would endure upon hearing the news. Desperate and filled with a deep sense of longing, I pleaded and prayed for a chance to return, to go back to the life I had known. Miraculously, my plea was answered, and I found myself descending through a hazy and tumultuous atmosphere, a mixture of fog, mud, and flames. As I neared my physical body, a sense of relief washed over me, and I regained consciousness as I was being transported into the ambulance. Looking back now, I estimate that this entire experience lasted approximately 5 to 10 minutes.